Hi guys, hope you're doing well today. I wanted to film a philosophy Q&A and talk a little bit about my university experience. Based on my own research, there isn't much content out there about what it's like studying a philosophy degree. So let's just get into some of the questions you guys had. So to begin with, what does studying philosophy entail? What studying philosophy actually means in practical terms is that you're going to have to do a lot of reading that is usually very difficult to understand. You have to do a lot of writing that is being graded on coherence and conciseness, like a certain essay writing style that takes something complex and makes it more simple. And then you have to also do a lot of thinking, learning how to think logically and rationally, and use critical thought and analysis and kind of building on all of those skills. So one question you guys asked was, what kind of introduction skills do I need to do a philosophy degree? This depends on what level of philosophy degree you're going to be doing. So I did an undergraduate bachelor's of arts in philosophy, single honors, so that means that's all I studied, philosophy. And so I personally went in never having read a single philosophy text, and so I don't think that's necessary in order to take an undergraduate philosophy degree. Yeah, you just simply have to be curious and motivated to learn. And of course, having some reading skills, some advanced reading skills and writing skills would also help, especially if you're going to be entering into a philosophy program that is more advanced than an undergraduate degree. Then you probably do need to have read a little bit of philosophy and understand a little bit about essay writing. But in general, you can and will learn how to do these things, and you will be trained in the skills that you need to pass your degree within your degree. And so I wouldn't worry too much about what kind of things you need to enter into a philosophy degree before actually beginning. Just some curiosity and motivation is literally all you need. Matt asked, note-taking. How do I take notes? And this is actually one of the more complicated questions to answer because it has kind of contradictory nature. So you think that taking good notes is essential to aiding your understanding of a subject. And for some people it is. But in my experience, I think taking notes, especially prematurely before you fully understood something, can be detrimental to your actual understanding of it, and it can be sacrificing time you could be spending understanding the subject matter, reaching a better understanding of it, and you'd be wasting all that time taking notes. So for me, like, how I take notes differs depending on how complicated the subject is, how much note-taking is actually going to help me reach an understanding of it, and why I'm taking the notes is a really crucial question to ask. So if I'm writing an essay, I will be taking notes, thinking about my research questions specifically. If I'm just trying to understand a subject matter, taking notes may not be the best option in order to understand it. Like, depending on the text, if I'm reading it for the first time, usually I'll just read through it and kind of mark the general areas that I either understood really well or I didn't understand well at all, and I'll just take a note, like I'll put a question mark in the margins if I don't get it. I'll underline a few lines if I think they make the point really well, or like the essential like thesis statement and conclusion of any particular section. On a second reading, I try to put in a few key words in the margins that indicate what this section is talking about. And this is really helpful for when I go back into that text, especially for a longer text, to be able to find crucial passages really easily. If I know for a fact that I'm only reading this in order to write an essay, then I will be reading it with an eye for the research question and the kind of thing I'm looking for. I'll also write down quotes in a separate document with their page numbers so I can refer to them and pick them out really easily while I'm writing. But this is only if I know what the question is that I'm researching. If I'm reading it for an essay and I don't yet know what question I'm going to be answering, or if I don't yet know how this relates to the overall topic, then I would just do the first things I mentioned and not write down specific quotes. In lectures, when I'm just trying to understand the subject, once again, how I take notes depends on how well I already understand the subject. So all of what I said before has to do with the reading, but in terms of going to the lecture and taking notes, first of all, I really recommend like recording lectures. If it's like a really complicated subject, recording a lecture and then just sitting back and listening and not taking notes can be a really useful way for you to just try to comprehend and not be distracted by trying to write down everything that the lecturer is saying, because later you go back and read your notes and you're like, what have I even written? This makes no sense. And that's not helpful. So usually if the subject matter is really easy or if it's really complicated, I only take like notes that are questions. So if I'm learning about something that's like super simple and I already get it, then I don't need to take notes to aid my understanding. I already have that understanding. And so taking down any questions that pop into my mind during a lecture, any questions the lecturer asked or other students asked, those are going to be the most useful to write about, because they are the critical questions that will help me like make an argument in an essay or be critically evaluating a problem. If it's also a super complicated subject matter like Kant or Hegel, and like I don't understand it from the get-go, then taking notes will also be counterintuitive to my reaching an understanding. And so I'll only take notes that are in question form, so that later I can go to my lecturer and be like, hey, I don't understand this stuff. I won't be taking notes that's just writing down something a lecturer said unless I already kind of have an understanding of it, and taking that note will help me reach an even deeper understanding of it. So when note taking, I would say like the most important thing is to know why you're doing it and to optimize for that scenario. If you're taking notes simply to take notes, you probably shouldn't be taking notes. That's what I'll say. So someone else asked, how do you decide what ideas to omit, keeping only what is crucial to the philosophy? And so this person was summarizing Being in Nothingness by Sartre, which is a huge book that like it's really hard to summarize, especially if you don't have a focus. And so, yeah, the question is essentially, how do I summarize a complex piece of philosophy? And so I completely relate to the struggle. In my first year, the very first philosophy module I took was called Tutorial Study. And every week we met and we had read a certain piece of philosophy, and every week that was to follow, we had to summarize this piece of philosophy. And on average, the text we had to read was like 20 to 30 pages, and the summary had to be 500 words. So like, it was like a hyperbolically difficult task. You had to read Camus' Myth of Sisyphus and summarize it in 500 words. This module was basically catered towards teaching you the skill of omitting information and producing a concise summary of it, using only what you thought was relevant. And so basically, my experience in this problem has always been solved for me by the concept of a word count or a word limit. Because I have to write an essay of like 3,000 words on this subject matter, I already know that I can't include everything in that essay. I already know that maximum I'll have to summarize something in 1,000 words and then spend 1,500 to 2,000 words analyzing it and critically looking at it. And a lot of philosophy is not about summarizing, and it's about critically analyzing. So I would say set yourself a word count, and if need be, set yourself an essay question or a topic of focus, because those can really help you narrow your search and develop the skills of critically analyzing, on top of the skill of summarizing and omitting certain information and picking out only the crucial stuff. These are two really essential skills in philosophy, and you need to have focus. Essentially, you cannot summarize something if you don't have a focus. If you're trying to summarize a whole thing, you're going to end up writing like a 50-page summary, and that might be a summary for a book as huge as Being in Nothingness, but it's not useful to read and to get all of the crucial information. But remember that like summarizing also necessarily means that you sacrifice some detail, and so you can't have both. It's a trade-off. If you're going to be summarizing, you're going to lose some of the substance, some of the detail, but you can keep like the most essential stuff. And I would say it just comes with practice. Just practice summarizing something to like a level that you feel really uncomfortable with. Like I was really uncomfortable writing 500-word summaries, and I felt like I definitely missed a lot of the points, but it forced me to learn how to pick out the relevant information and use as concise language as possible to explain really complicated topics. Next, what can you do with a philosophy degree? I feel like this is a question everyone asks, like what even is a philosophy degree? Like what can you do with it? And like honestly, you can do so many things with a philosophy degree. Like I'm gonna list them for you, but just as a thesis statement, just because it's not a vocational degree, just because you study philosophy to become a philosopher, you study philosophy to gain a set of skills that are transferable to different subject matter. Just because it's not a vocational degree doesn't mean that you can't learn things and you can't apply them to future jobs. So here's a fact for you. Philosophers consistently gain the highest marks on tests like the LSAT because of their critical thinking skills. So as a philosopher, you're actually very equipped to do a conversion degree into law. Also very equipped to study something like politics or history. All of the skills in philosophy are very transferable to those kinds of degrees that involve thinking and writing and reading and analyzing. Philosophers are also really good at learning new things in general. So if you took a conversion course into computer science or into artificial intelligence, you have a background in logic in order to be able to excel in these fields if you so choose it, if you are motivated to learn that kind of skill set. Philosophy is applicable to these kinds of scientific fields as well, especially ones that are based on logic. You're also, equipped to work in publishing or in editing or in researching, because your writing skills, your analytic skills that I've been talking about, your reading skills, your researching skills are very high. Like, you can do so many things with a philosophy degree. With subjects like English literature or psychology, you can apply a philosophic knowledge which a lot of your peers may not have because they didn't study philosophy to these fields, and it will give you a very unique edge. In terms of computer science or artificial intelligence, you can think about the ethical ramifications of the problems you're trying to solve, and that gives you, again, a very unique edge in solving these problems, and it makes you a very valuable person to hire if that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for a job, philosophy is not an unemployable field, contrary to popular belief. For me, however, the biggest thing philosophy taught me was personal. I learned a lot about myself. I learned how to evaluate my own life, my priorities, my progress according to my own values. And yes, it made me question who I am, and yes, it made me question what I want to do. But it also gave me the skills to be able to learn anything that I want, and gave me confidence that I'm able to learn everything I want. Like, basically, if you have read Kant and survived, like, whether or not you understood Kant, if you've read Kant and survived, you can do anything. And you have this, like, all-encompassing confidence that you can do anything you want in life. And so, I've gained so many skills from studying a philosophy degree. And for me, the most important one is the skill of being able to think interiorly and question my values and change my mind if I need to change my mind, and kind of question how do I want to live my life? What do I want to do with my life? And all of these questions have helped me find clarity about especially what I don't want to do. I think philosophy has taught me a lot about what I do not want to do, more than it has taught me about what I do want to do. But I mean, the biggest cliche is that after completing this degree, all that I know for sure is I know nothing for sure, and all that I think I've gained is being able to question what I think I've gained. But it's true, and it's kind of a mind bender, but it's worth it. I mean, it's absolutely worth it to study philosophy. Should you study philosophy? Based on what I know of studying philosophy, if you want to be sure of nothing, if you want to leave your reading with your head spinning and aching a bit, if you want to leave your lectures with your head aching a bit from the complexity of the subject matter that you've just been talking about, if you want to entertain questions and uncertainties, if you want to entertain some of the most fundamental and sometimes unanswerable questions in the universe, like the meaning of consciousness, or what is a universal ethics and can it exist? If you want to almost never reach a conclusion but have some very heated and stimulating debates with your friends and your family and your lecturers alike, then maybe you should study philosophy. I have been so lucky to be able to study philosophy almost exclusively for 3 years, and I don't think I'm ever gonna stop thinking like a philosopher or entertaining philosophical questions. I think they are so valuable and fundamental and interesting, and Yeah, and I would encourage everyone to study philosophy even a little bit. Like, you don't have to dedicate yourself to it full time like I did. Some people may not have the privilege to study philosophy full time, but definitely try to minor in it. Try to, take a philosophy course. Try to read philosophy on the side. This is why this channel exists. I want to make philosophy accessible for you. I want everyone to engage with it because I think it's just absolutely so valuable. And then I guess the final question that a lot of you have asked is, what am I gonna do next now that I'm done with my bachelor's? And I don't know, guys. Like I said, philosophy equips you to do so many things, but like one of the biggest things it does is make you question everything and everything you thought you knew. And the thing is, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I never knew that I wanted to study philosophy before I discovered what philosophy was, and before I attended a philosophy lecture and realized, wow, I really want to do just this. I initially went into university thinking I wanted to study English literature because I love books, but I realized that that wasn't for me and that philosophy was for me. And so I'm sure that in my exploring in the next few years, I'm going to discover maybe what I want to dedicate myself to. I don't want to rush into doing another academic degree because I think that I've just been in an institution and been educated within an institution for so long. And honestly, during my degree at some point, I felt disillusioned with academia. I felt like I wasn't studying what I wanted. I felt that there were constraints that were put on me as a student that I didn't want to be there. And that's why for the next year at least, I think I'm going to just take a step back from academia. I'm going to get some life experience. I'm going to travel, but I'm also going to keep learning. I'm going to keep reading books. I'm going to keep questioning things. I'm going to keep making videos and having discussions with people on the internet and people in my real life. I'm so excited for this chance. Like, if I can just read, if I can just, get through all of the books on my TBR. I think I need a break from the pressures of academia, and I just need to explore for a bit, free reign, see what I can do outside of an institution. And yeah, I'm so happy with my free time now. I'm so happy that I get to read what I want, and do what I want and write about what I want and explore my creative energy and explore my intellectual energy and explore the world's energy and just be in nature sometimes for long periods of time and, socialize with the people. And I'm really grateful that I get the freedom to not know what I want to do for a little while. But once I do know, if I do continue with academia, because I do love the research, I will let you guys know. And yeah, but I hope that answers your question. It's a big question mark of learning and exploring and seeing where life takes me. But yes, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for submitting your questions. I hope I answered your question. If I did not, you can leave a comment down below and I will be sure to get to it, and we can keep the discussion going. But yeah, okay, thank you so much for watching. This video has gone on for long enough. Goodbye. I did a Q&A, guys. I'm a YouTuber now. What? Okay, bye.